Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are taking a quick look at the new CTAF trial for it's happening in VATUSA over the next few months. Just gonna give you a lowdown on what is a CTAF, how is it different from what we've been doing on UNICOM, and everything associated with that. So you probably should have heard that VATSIM is trialing a new approach to uncontrolled airports on VATSIM in the United States. VATUSA is doing a trial up to 6 months as of now, March 5th, 2024. Trialing giving airports independent CTAF frequencies. This is more realistic than what we currently do on VATSIM, which is put everybody onto a universal UNICOM frequency of 122.8. In the real world, UNICOM is actually a kind of specific frequency. It's a frequency that is used for air-to-ground non-ATC communications. Things like private jets calling FBOs to get ICE and the car out to their airplanes and other things like that. Not necessarily a controller or other planes talking to each other. In VATSIM, we've used UNICOM for a long time, as 122.8 is where you go whenever ATC logs off or is unavailable. It's been used in the US and around the world as the universal CTAF. What we're doing now is breaking out of that and using each airport's individual CTAF as charted. So each airport in an area is going to have a unique frequency that airplanes talk to each other on. What does CTAF stand for? It's an acronym. It stands for Common Traffic Advisory Frequency. And it is exactly what it sounds like. This is the frequency where all the airplanes going into, in our case, Easton, or Bay Bridge, or LAX, if a controller is not online, that's where they will all be talking and advising each other of the patterns. And really, beyond that, nothing changes. The real trick is finding the right frequency and knowing where to look on your charts. We'll jump into that. But again, stress that nothing really changes. You should make all the same traffic calls that you would on old UNICOM on the new CTAF frequencies. As an enjoyer of VFR flying, this is exciting to me. I always like an excuse to tune another radio frequency. Most small airports on VATSIM, really, we don't need, we're not limited by traffic. At some bigger airports, like LAX or Atlanta, if no one's online, the UNICOM might get a little busy, especially for the surrounding area. New York's another big one. But for a lot of small airports, you may not have another airplane on VATSIM flying there. So the difference there may be negligible. But it's another thing to look for in the charts, another thing we can do to approximate reality. And in these situations where there's a lot of different traffic coming to airports on an uncontrolled frequency, dividing the CTAF into different airports is helpful for making sure everyone knows what's going on and where. So if you're anything like me, your next question is probably, how do I find out what the CTAF frequency is, and how do I go about that? Now, luckily, in the US, where this is being run, all the charts are published by the federal government, by the FAA. They're free for you to look at. You don't have to buy anything, buy any services. You can find that on websites like SkyVector or ChartFox. I use Navigraph. You can find all the same information on the charts in Navigraph, but they're from another provider. So we can find all the same information, but some of the places will be different. So here's what we're looking at if we're looking at SkyVector. This is the Baltimore-Washington area. You've got DCA over here, IAD over at the left, Dulles, and BWI is over here. We are at the blue dot, Easton Newman Field here, Echo Sierra November. Now, to determine basically is an airport towered or untowered, we're looking at the color. A blue airport signifies it is towered. DCA, obviously towered, but Easton is a towered field. But we can come down here to find that tower frequency. Now, first place you can find a CTAF frequency and what that is here. So if we look at this line, Easton Newman Field, it says control tower, is what that means, 118.525. This star means that the control tower does not operate 24/7. So this control tower may be closed during the day. Now, on VATSIM, it's up to the controller whether they want to operate these fields that close the tower during the usually late night when no one's flying in and out, whether they want to operate that as an uncontrolled field or a controlled field. When in doubt, ask the controller. But that star tells you that that is sometimes an untowered field, but does have a control tower during the day, presumably. And then the C here means that this is also the CTAF frequency. So 118.525 is going to be what we're tuning for CTAF at Easton. But looking at Washington Dulles Airport here, this is one of the major international airports in the Washington area. And you can see control tower, you get a bunch of frequencies, no star and no C. That means that Dulles doesn't have a control tower. The control tower never closes. There may be some provisions for if something were to happen and they go ATZ 0, but you won't be able to find that on the chart. Now, generally, we're going to use the one of the tower frequencies is at these large airports where we have multiple. Now, how do you find that? You can go into, the easiest way is probably to go into your pilot client. I have vpilot, and to run .ctaf IAD. And essentially, it will spit back the CTAF frequency for KIAD is 134.425. It's this one here. So can be hard to tell looking at this. You should look at .ctaf. You can also go to the VATSIM airport information page. Now, finally, if we wanted to go to Bay Bridge Airport, that's where we're going. At the end of the day, Bay Bridge here, we can read the chart. It's magenta, which means it's never towered. It's an uncontrolled airport. Bay Bridge, Whiskey 29. We have an automated weather observation system. And the CTAF frequency is going to be 122.725. You might see this 120 here. That's the AWOS. This is saying 122.725 with the red, with the C in a circle, denotes the CTAF. So we're going to take off out of Easton on, and I forget the frequency, but they're right here. On 118.525, we'll make our calls there. Then we'll switch over to 122.725 to go to Bay Bridge. Now, this is not the only place that you can find that information. If we look at the FAA airport diagram for Easton, we have the ATIS, we have Easton Tower with a star. It means the same thing as it does on the sectional. 118.525 here, we would assume here, based on that, that's the CTAF, but it doesn't necessarily call it out explicitly. There may be a chart supplement page that I don't have in front of me right here that explains all of that. Another place, we don't have the airport diagram on SkyVector for Bay Bridge. It's just a one run, but this is the RNAV procedure they have for runway 11 into Bay Bridge. And we get your AWOS frequency, your Potomac approach, and your UNICOM / CTAF frequency 122.725. So if you have the JEP charts and Navigraph, it's a different format, but you can see all the same information. Here's Easton. It's a little bit more detailed than the FAA first page. There's a chart supplement that you can get to. But essentially, we have the tower when it's operating or the CTAF of 118.525 here in the top box. If we go to the JEP chart for Bay Bridge, we get the same information. Bay Bridge Unicom, CTAF 122.725. So same thing here now for DCA. You'll notice that we do not have a CTAF frequency. But we do only have one tower frequency listed, 119.1. To confirm that that's the CTAF, I'm going to do .ctaf, KDCA. And the CTAF frequency for DCA is 119.1. So if there's only one tower frequency, that's the CTAF frequency. If there's multiple, it'll be the primary. So one more way we can figure it out is we can go to the VATSIM AIP page. Here we have a information about all these airports, and we can figure out what the CTAF frequency is here. For instance, we can look at Denver. So Denver's an airport with 4 different tower frequencies, basically one for each direction of the runways. But we can come into here in the airport information page, and we can get all this information, which includes the green highlighted CTAF frequency of 132.350. Pretty straightforward. You can bookmark this page, the VATSIM AIP airport information page. I think going through your pilot client .ctaf is going to be a lot easier. You don't have to open another page, but you can do this as well if you're unsure. So a couple more things, and then we'll get into the air. First thing is, we're still using Unicom 122.8 for anything in your departure climb out above about 10,000 feet. Should stay on that Unicom frequency. Anything in the air, high up, between aircraft up there, you should be monitoring the 122.8. When you descend down to your arrival, especially into the busier airports, but it's going to depend on what you're flying and where you're flying to, that's when you would call on CTAF. VATSIM, their website recommends 10 nautical miles and below 5,000 feet, or for a larger Bravo, Class Bravo airspace, your Dulles, your JFK, your LAX, 20 nautical miles and 10,000 feet. I would also throw in that it should depend on what you're flying. If you're flying something low and slow, 10 miles and below 5,000 feet is plenty. In our little Comanche, if you're flying a 737 into Easton, call up, 20 miles out and let everybody know that you're blasting in on a straight-in approach. That's helpful. So it's a little bit contextual, but general rule of thumb there. Finally, there's a bunch of special exemptions, stars to what we've talked about, mostly having to do with SFRAs and other special flight areas. That includes things like the Bravo transition through LAX. It has a CTAF frequency where you can fly over the airport. Same for the New York Hudson River route. These have distinct frequencies that are now simulated instead of just being on normal Unicom. But that's all kind of more advanced and covered in the VATSIM CTAF frequently asked questions page. So there are, but like everything in aviation, there are a few exceptions, not really exemptions and exceptions, but some different situations where you might run into a different CTAF frequency. But for the most part, fairly straightforward. It's another frequency to tune. So radios maybe even a little more engaging. All right, so we've got the engine started on the ramp here, and we are at Easton again. No DC center online, so no chance that it is controlled. And let me remind myself what the frequency was. It was 118.525. So again, instead of Unicom, we're going 118.525. Now I don't expect to hear a ton because there's no one else here, but this is now the frequency for CTAF at Easton. We got a quick flight. We're not actually going to leave either area, so I do want to program in Bay Bridge now too while we're at it. Bay Bridge CTAF 122.725. So 122.725, and as an expedient here in the interim while we're still rolling this out, I'm also going to tune Unicom 122.8 if DC Center were online. We could also tune them on COM too. But all right, we're ready to go. We're going to taxi on out straight ahead here to runway 4. That's going to be most convenient for us. The wind is calm. All right, so let's put a light on and call up. So we're again on CTAF 118.525. Let's give Easton a call. Easton traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, taxiing to runway 4 via Alpha. And we'll cross 33 at Alpha. So again, the same thing that we did before. On Unicom, same traffic calls, whole same pattern, nothing else is changing, just the frequency we're on. Easton traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, crossing runway 33 in Alpha. Easton traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, taking runway 33, departing straight out to the north, Easton. Easton traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, 1000, departing straight out, last call Easton. All right, so we've departed out of Easton. We're going to maintain about 1,500 feet for our quick jaunt up to Bay Bridge. It should just be up there. All right, so I'm eyeballing it about 10 miles away. We can see the Bay Bridge there. The airport's just to the left. We're going to enter on the downwind for runway 11, meaning we're going to go out into the bay and then come back in at it. So we can go over to the Bay Bridge Unicom now. The Bay Bridge CTAF, excuse me. Well, that's also accurate. 122.725. Now, again, if we're climbing up out of the area, we'd go to 122.8 for the cruise. But for now, we're on 122.725. We've also got Unicom tuned, so we don't hear, make sure we don't miss anyone talking on Unicom if they're using the old system. Bay Bridge traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, about 10 to the east. Going to enter the downwind for runway 11 full stop Bay Bridge. Bay Bridge traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, we're downwind to land full stop runway 11 Bay Bridge. All right, so we're on the downwind now. Let's go ahead and get set up here. 1 notch of flaps. And then basically we'll call final. And this is a neat approach to a little airport out in Maryland. Get to fly over a nice point of interest, which is cool. Bay Bridge traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, final to land, runway 11 full stop Bay Bridge. And this is kind of nice. We're on our own on this frequency. Again, all the airplanes for Bay Bridge are using 122, or we're using this frequency, 118.525. So we're not mixed in with BWI or DCA or IAD traffic that we normally would have been. Let's go full flaps now. Power back. A little high, but try to salvage this. Not too much, not too little. Let it come down. A little hard on the nose wheel, but that's all right. Welcome everybody to Bay Bridge. Bay Bridge traffic, Comanche 8 Tango Victor, clear runway 11, taxi into parking. So that's just a quick introduction to CTAF frequencies on VATSIM. Again, as of March 5th, 2024, this is going to run a trial, currently running for the next few months, up to the next 6 months, and then we'll see beyond that. But for now, this is what we're doing, trying out in the United States on VATSIM. So it's exciting, a little bit more realistic, and lets us play with the radios some more, which I always love. One thing to note on frequencies, there are some small private fields that don't have a published CTAF frequency. In that case, if there's nothing at all published, the universal kind of backup frequency is 122.9. So 122.9, if there's no other CTAF published, is what you're going to use. So that's all we have for today. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this is informative and maybe it induces you to go do a little GA flying on VATSIM. It is good fun. As always, like, comment, subscribe goes a long way for all the YouTube stuff, and we really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm hoping to do a little more VFR flying. It might be the spring of VFR, depending on how some things go in the larger sim world. But should be fun. Looking forward to it. Thanks for watching. Hope you all take it easy, and we'll see you on the next one.